Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, January 8th, and this is virtual lunch number 214. And Raymond Blijd is our guest today. I'm honored that he's going to be speaking to us. And Raymond, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and the work that you're doing in Amsterdam?
I studied law at two universities, one in Suriname, where I come from in South America, and finished my law degree here in the Netherlands. And I should become a lawyer. That didn't work out. So I got stuck with a lot of technology. So that's where I focused the last 10, 15 years of my career is building legal tech in general. And at this moment in time in my life, I've decided to go off and do something crazy, start my own company. I co-founded Legalpioneer.org, which is a open platform that now has over 5,000 businesses and ideas in the legal space. And the company that I now try to get out as a rocket ship is called Legalcomplex.com. And what we basically try to do is capture as much data as we can. We first started with business profiles on companies that impact the legal industry. And we're now slowly moving towards other types of data points. So, starting as a lawyer in this industry, I thought the technology that lawyers specifically use to find law or to encode processes. During my study, I had a degree in legal knowledge engineering, which was just coding laws into rule-based systems. So that's where I got my initial tech start. As I gradually started getting more profiles in, I started noticing that you have tools that work for lawyers, and you have tools that work for companies, and you have tools that work for citizens. And the most important one, tools that work for corporations in general. Just to take an example, Salesforce is a customer management platform, and customers sign contracts. So one of the biggest sources of contract data resides in and around Salesforce. But would we consider Salesforce a legal tech company or not? So I started struggling with those questions. Should I include those companies or not? At the end of the day, I just said I'm going to include as many as possible, and I'll just use the term companies that impact the legal industry, just to be safe and not to get everyone angry. E-discovery companies, which were traditionally focused on the legal industry, are now shifting more towards the financial industry and just corporations in general, and fixing their document problems instead of helping the legal industry with litigation. There's a difference between seed and growth capital. The growth capital is slowly coming down and the seed capital is going up. So new startups get a lot more seed. It used to be only 500,000. Now it's 1 million that a new company gets as seed funding, the initial round. So those are the silver linings. But in general, just looking at the numbers and making that judgment is that once you get a really huge round, it happened also with Atrium LTS, you didn't see other companies benefiting from that. One exception, that is the contract space. Contract and automation, you still see that there is no winner yet. So everybody's still on par and getting equal amount of funding compared to the competition. Some companies have existed for a very long time before they get their initial funding. So they already have market fit, they already have an established team, they already have revenue. They just need to stay afloat or just expand. And they get seed, but it's not like a company that has just been created like 2 or 3 months ago. So before you make that judgment, you first have to look at the age of the company and where they are in their journey towards product market fit. But age is a definite factor. The legal industry is the only industry that can self-regulate. So that makes it easier for them to protect their business. That's why in the past decade, over 100 million has been invested, and we still have the billable hour as a business model. I don't see that happening very fast. What I do see happening is that a lot of automation is going to happen at the fringes, and that's slowly going to encroach on the market of lawyers themselves. Again, this space, the legal industry, is so difficult to disrupt because lawyers have to change the law, and I'm not sure if they're going to do that. In comparison, more companies are getting funded now than they were in the past. Looking also at government stimulus, which is going to be the biggest investors of all companies going forward, maybe, there is access to capital. I don't think that's the issue. Also, access to the market might not be as high a barrier. Where I do see difficulties is that most of the documents that companies want to access and work their magic on do resides on these Amazon, Google. For instance, Iron Mountain is also a big one. And actually, Google has a good document AI, which is scary for other companies to compete against. So that's what I do see as a barrier. The year started really slow. We had the lowest amount of rounds and funding in total. That was in January. So that spurred me to write a post that this is the fall of legal tech. A week after that, Atrium announced that they were going to shut down. So I was really depressed. Then COVID came. I was like, oh, this is going bad. I was already looking at what other types of industries can I go and capture. But then came May. Companies raised in total 1.24 billion in 1 month. Legal was a big part of it. That record of 1.24 was broken in December. So May and December were the highest on record for 2020. But if you look at it in total, I think we're slightly ahead of 2018, but we're still behind on 2019. It didn't make a dent. I was going to say after May, this is going to be pretty bad for the legal industry, but it bounced back. Legal is actually more stable than fintech and other industries, Valtech, in terms of getting funding. You see really big swings in trends, like payment was a big swing, and then it's now slowly tapering off. With legal, it has been always a constant, steady increase of how much money they're getting year for year, month by month. Legal has this ability to survive a lot of chaos and tragedy and disruption for a really long time now. It's a stable industry. And people come up with new ideas. My personal belief is look at all of the participants here. Legal has a passionate following, a passionate audience that sticks around for a really long time. The other ones are like rocket ships and they're maybe sexy for a moment and then people lose interest and go to maybe self-driving technology or whatever. But in legal, my gut feeling tells me, and there's no numbers behind it, is that because people stick around because of the mission that legal has, that helps good companies stick around for a really long time. There are companies in my database that have surviving as a startup with only 5 or 10 people for over 10 years. It's amazing that they are still in business and are doing great. That's the other one. I don't see that happening in fintech because of the technology competition there is just harder. Basically, what we've been doing is selling insights to companies. One of the more popular requests that we get is when companies want to raise a series round and they want to, add a competitive analysis to their pitch deck or explain to investors that there's a growth and there's an increase. And if we pivot to this part, and I help them identify which markets, which customers have traction as opposed to where they are now. I'm trying to look at the data. I'm just trying to interpret what I see and not trying to look forward because it's always tempting to do like, okay, this is going to go up or this is going to go down. But what I do see, due to a lot of money coming in, what I suspect, stimulus, government, grants, the biggest investor in legal tech in Europe is the European Union with grants. They have doled out the most amount of money. So what I see is that more legal tech companies will venture into what I call financial security or fintech for short. You see that with e-discovery, and they're going to move slowly more towards helping corporations instead of just focusing on firms or accountancy. Those are two safe predictions because we've been seeing that trend for quite some time. If you go on LinkedIn and type in, I need a job for KYC, you only get promoted vacancies because there are not enough people to fill those jobs. But it's actually, if you look at it really closely, e-discovery can do the same thing. So I see a lot of companies reevaluating their technology and looking at maybe we can point it to another direction and into that space. Because in general, KYC, you have to have some legal background to understand when you don't know your customer that well.
Raymond, Blijd, everybody, wonderful conversation. I'm so excited that we did this today. Thanks, everyone.